So today I'm going to show you how to animate vector shapes, basically morphing two shapes together. And this first example that I'm going to do is quite simple. It's for if you've got really, really simple shapes, and then I'll kind of give you a what if you've got a worst case scenario type thing, which is a lot more steps, but works out pretty cool. So we're just going to open up a new composition here. Composition, new composition. If you have your window open, your intro window, you can just click on new composition. I'm just going to use the 920 by 1080. The duration of 5 seconds is fine. But I'm going to change my background color. I don't want white. I'm just going to change it to a dark gray. You guys can change it to whatever you want. But click OK. Click OK. So here's my composition. So the first way that we're going to do this is we're actually going to create a solid color layer, and then we're going to use masks and we're going to morph one mask into the other because they're going to be paths. They're going to have anchor points and paths in between them. So let's go ahead and we'll do that first by adding a new solid layer. So under Layer, go to New, and go to Solid, and you'll get this dialog box that pops up. Okay, and it's going to ask you what size you want this to be. I just want it to be the full size of my screen. Okay, units and pixels, yes. I'm going to change the color though. I don't want it to be the same color as my background. I'm just going to, I don't know, make it some red. Make it whatever color you want. Click OK. Click OK again. And so you get this big red box. Okay. So what I need to do now is I actually need to create a mask for this to show just the shape that I want to show. So with this layer selected, you can see deep red solid 1. Go up and grab one of your drawing tools. I'm going to grab under the shape tool, I'm going to grab the star. Yep, Kayla.
How come the layer new thing isn't on?
Layer new.
Oh, like it's not acceptable.
Yeah. You have to start a new
Did you open a new composition yet? So with my star selected, I'm just going to draw a star. I'm going to try and get it as close to the middle of my composition as possible. Totally missed the mark. Whatever. It's just an example. Okay, so there's my star. So you can see what happened there is down here in my layers panel, I'll just zoom in here. You can see that I actually created a mask for this solid color layer. Okay, so it's showing me mask 1. If I fly this open, is just a mask path. So it's just a path that's masking off all the rest of that red solid layer.
Oh, sorry. Can I just redo that?
Yep. Yep. So with, okay, sorry. I've got no layers. I'm going to add a new solid.
Yeah.
Click OK. So here's my solid. It's filled in with that color. And then with that layer selected, I just grabbed my shape tool with this. I grabbed the star tool. And I just drew a star. And so what's happening is that it's actually a mask. So it's hiding all of the other red that's all out here. It's still out here. It's just hiding it because it's a mask path. Okay? And so that's all I can see. With that layer still selected, let's go ahead and we'll grab another shape. Okay, I'm going to switch from the star to my ellipse tool. And I am going to just draw a circle. So you can see what's happening here is that I actually added another mask to this layer. I'll zoom in. So you can see mask number 2. These are both just different paths. Okay, but because they're masks on the same layer, all I can see, here let me just select off of that really quick. All I can see is the red. The red is filling my whole document really, right? But these two mask paths are just hiding the outside. So that's all I'm seeing. So what I want to do is I want to actually animate this star to transform and morph into this circle shape. Okay. So the only way that you can really do this is by actually grabbing keyframes and copying and pasting keyframes and then putting them all on the same path kind of attribute. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to want to open up path or mask number 2. Okay, so I'll just zoom in down here. I've got mask 2, and I click on path mask. You can see up here in my composition panel that it highlighted the actual path. Okay, that's what I want. Now, unfortunately, I can't select any keyframes right now because I haven't built any. So all I need to do is click on the stopwatch, and it'll give me a keyframe. That's great. Everybody with me still? Okay. All I'm going to do is I'm going to just highlight that keyframe by clicking and dragging over top of it, and I'm just going to cut it with Command X, so it disappears. All right. I no longer, bless you, I no longer need this mask 2 layer. So with it selected, I'm just going to hit delete. I'll zoom back out here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so with that saved to my clipboard, that path, I'm actually going to, right on frame 1 still, I haven't moved my current time indicator, I'm going to start this mask path animation by starting a keyframe right here with that star shape. So I'm just going to hit my stopwatch, so there's my first keyframe. And I'm going to grab my current time indicator, I'm just going to drag it over to the right, maybe I'll go to 1 second. And I'm going to paste the keyframe that I copied previously so that I get a circle. Okay, so I hope that was kind of like your aha moment when I drag my current time indicator and it's just morphing from one path to another. Does that make sense?
Did you paste it? Did you
Yeah, I just dragged my current time indicator to 1 second and I just did Command V.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's it. So you can see what's happening here is I've got this path. It's a mask really on frame 1, and as I go to frame 30 or 1 second, my path actually changes to a circle. So you can see it does all the kind of tweening and forming. Are you guys familiar with the word tweening? I know people that have probably used Flash are familiar with shape tweens and motion tweens. So tweening is from the term in-betweening. So you create your first frame and you create your last frame, and then you draw all the frames in between. So that's why it's called tweening. Okay. So that's my first example. It's not really brain surgery, right? So now that we've done that, let's just delete the whole thing. I just clicked on layer 1 and just hit delete. So that's pretty simple. Those were 2 pretty simple shapes. They had like a fill and just an outer stroke, or not an outer stroke, but a path, one path, and that was it. So it's pretty simple to do something like that. But what happens if you have a more complex shape? Like say, what we're going to do next is we're going to take the letter A and we're going to morph it into the letter B. Okay? So you can kind of, can you think of some problems that might occur when you go from the letter A to the letter B? Yeah, Olivia.
More lines than B than R.
Yeah, that's true. So there's going to be more paths because we've actually got 2 counterforms in the letter B and only 1 in the letter A. So we're going to have to think of how we're going to tackle this. We'll just do it on the fly. So I'm going to grab my text tool. Go ahead and grab your text tool. Before we type anything, let's just head over to our character panel over here on the right-hand side, and we'll change a couple settings. Helvetica is fine. I'm going to change it from regular to bold. And I'm going to jazz up this font size to like 600. Okay. So with my type tool still selected, I'm just going to click on my composition, my big cursor, and I'm just going to type in A. All right. So I don't want to risk creating a new layer with another type tool and not getting it in the exact same spot. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to duplicate this layer first of all. Okay. So you can go up to Edit and Duplicate, but I'm just going to use the keyboard shortcut, which is Command D. Sorry, just make sure that you have that layer selected and you're not still on the type tool. And so Command D, what happens is that, whoops, zoomed into the wrong thing. It gives me this new layer down here. So I had A previously, now I've got A2. A2 isn't really a very good name because this is actually going to be the letter B. So I'm going to right click on it. If you don't have right click on your mouse, just hit hold Control and click on it to get that window to open up. Yep.
How do you make an A2?
Pardon?
How do you make an A2?
How do you make it A2? I just duplicated that A layer. So just with that layer selected, just hit Command D. And it should automatically name it whatever that layer was named and then put the number 2 right after it. Okay? So I'm just going to rename this. I'm just going to rename it B. Easy enough. Except this is still an A. So with your B layer selected and your type tool, come on back up into the composition panel and then just click and highlight the A and change it to a B. Everybody, I got everybody still? Okay. So these are great, except they're text layers. Okay, there's no, I don't have any vector shapes to play with here. There's no paths, there's no anchor points, and that's exactly what I want. So unfortunately, there's no way to do this as a group. You have to do one layer at a time. With your A layer selected, under your layer option, go to Create Shapes from Text. So what that does, you can see down here in your Layers panel, I'll just zoom in on it, is the star is indicating that this is now a shape layer, and it's an A outlines. So it just basically took the A and gave me vector information for that. So you can see here that I've got an actual shape layer of the A. And After Effects was actually nice enough to hide that original layer for me. So that's pretty cool. We're going to do the same thing with the layer B. So click on the B, go to Layer, and Create Shapes from Text. All right. Now we have to understand a couple things here. What's going on in this Layers panel? Okay. Like we said earlier, like Olivia said, is that we've got a lot more paths, a lot more shapes with the B than we do with the A. We've only got 2 shapes with the A and we've got 3 with the B. So that is a challenge for us. And I'll show you where you can find those shapes here. I'm just going to hide the B layer. We'll just work with the A. So I hid the B. I'm also just going to click on the A so that I don't have the B outlines showing up in my composition. And I'm just going to open this up just by clicking on the little caret beside it. You can see now I don't have just a transform option here. I've actually got a contents option here. I want to open that up and I want to talk to you about what's in here. Okay, there's a lot of things going on, and we'll just kind of go through them one thing at a time. So it says, here it says A, merge paths 1, stroke 1, fill 1, transform A. What the heck is all that? It's really actually easy to figure out. Just fly open that first A, and it says path. Okay, so that is a path. It's one of the 2 paths. It's either the outside or it's the shape for the counterform. Okay. To find out which one it is, I'm just going to click on the visibility button. So I know that that first A, that path, is the counterform. Do you guys have any questions so far? Yeah.
How do I make that B in here?
The B, at what stage do you want to create the outlines?
I don't know. Maybe there is a B up there.
Do you have your shape layers created?
I think so.
Okay, I just hid the B. I just hid that layer. Clicked on the little eyeball. Okay. You good?
No, it's the B.
You still see the B?
No, it's
Or-
the B.
Did you hide that layer? Oh, did you? When you duplicated that layer, did you highlight the text and then just change the A to a B?
I think so.
when I was on this layer, Kaylin, it was an A because I just made a duplicate of the A. So instead I need to do more than just change this to a B. I need to actually use my type tool and highlight the letter and then type a B. And then create my shape layer from that. Okay, so that first path is, let me hide that other one. My first path is the actual counterform, and the second one, you can see here, that's also a path. If I hide the visibility a bit, that's the outside outline. Okay, so those are simple enough. What does the merge paths attribute do? The merge paths attribute is just actually creating an interaction between those two paths. They're merging them together. Okay, you can see the mode here is actually called merge. We're going to be doing this in a little bit. But just a quick example, you don't have to do this. You can see if I grab actually this path and drag it out, you see how that interaction is working? It's just knocking out all the spaces where there's an overlap happening, and then it's coloring spaces where there is no overlap happening. So that's what the merge paths is doing. The other are pretty self-explanatory. This one's giving it a stroke, one's giving it a fill, and so on and so forth. So let's look at the B really quick. I'm just going to, you guys don't have to do this if you just want to watch. I just want to explain how this is working really quick. I'm going to turn on the B layer and click on it so I don't see my A outlines. And fly this open up my contents. I've got a B. Now I've got 3 paths here, okay? 1, 2, 3. They're all working in the exact same way. You can see that this one here, I'm guessing, is the top counterform. Yep. Bottom counterform and the outline shape. And then they're all working together the same way, so they're all merging. Wherever there's an overlap happening, it's knocking that shape out. And then anywhere there is no overlap, you see that white fill right there. So the fill is showing you white. Okay? So how are we going to get these to change from one to the other when we've got 2 shapes and we want to animate it into 3 shapes? We need to actually create, we're going to reconstruct these from scratch on a new shape layer, okay? So let's do that right now. With your B outlines layer selected, remember, anytime you add a new layer, it's going to add one above the current layer that you're on. So make sure you've got the B outlines layer selected. And go up under Layer, New, and we're going to do a new shape layer. I'm not sure why they don't have a keyboard shortcut for that. I think they do. They've got one for all the other ones. Okay, so shape layer 1. That's not a very good name for this. Let's just Control-click on it and rename it. I'm just going to call it like A to B. And hit return. Okay, so we've got this new layer, and this is where we're going to make all our magic happen. If you fly open that layer right now, you can see that there's no contents. We've got our typical transform attributes here, parameters. We've got nothing that we can transform right now, though. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go into the contents attribute of this, and we're going to rebuild the A and rebuild the B in a way that they morph together. Okay? You might be a little bit confused, but again, I hope as soon as we start doing the B, you'll have that aha moment where I think I understand what's going on here. First of all, drag your playhead back to frame 1 or 0 if you haven't. Okay, so we need some contents for this. So what I want to do first is I want to add a new attribute to this layer. So on this little add here, with the little flyout menu, just click on it. We're going to add a new path. Okay, so here it is, path 1. But it's completely empty. So let's get that filled up. Let me zoom out here so I can see what I'm doing. What I'm going to do is, remember, I want it to go from the A to the B. So at 0 seconds, I want all my paths for A, and then at 1 second, I want all my paths for B. So I'm going to open up the A layer here so that I can see both of my paths. Okay. And I just want to make sure I've got the right path. I've got it invisible. I'm going to turn it on really quick. Using my visibility, I'm going to just make sure, okay, so this layer here, the second one, is the outside shape. So I'm going to do that one first. It seems to be, I think it's probably going to be the easiest. Okay. So I need to get that path. And remember, you can't grab the path unless you've got a keyframe. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the stopwatch to give myself a keyframe that I can copy. Okay, so there's my keyframe. I'm just going to select it. And then you just lasso it with your mouse and then copy it. So I'm going to do Command C. I'm going to scroll back up to the path attribute, or you know, that thing that I made earlier that I haven't filled yet. Just going to click on it, and with my current time indicator at 0 and that path clicked on, I'm just going to paste. I'm not going to worry about the position of it right now. That's fine. I'm just going to work on it in that spot. Okay, let's grab the counterform for the A first before we keep going. So what I need to do is I need another path, or path attribute. Instead of going add new path, again, I'm just going to duplicate this. So with path 1 selected, I'm just going to hit Command D, or go up under Edit and duplicate. So Command D, there's my path number 2. Have I lost anybody? I see some people have chosen just to watch. Okay. So here I've got path 1, which is the outline of the A. Path 2 is a duplicate, but I don't need 2 outlines of the A. So what I'm going to do is go to my A outlines layer, and I've already grabbed this path, the outline one, and I know that the other one, this one right here, is the path for the counterform. So I'm going to select it. I need a keyframe to copy, so I'm just going to hit my stopwatch to give myself a keyframe. See that there's my keyframe right there. I'm going to lasso it with the mouse to select it. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to scroll up to my path 2 layer, which currently is just a duplicate. I've got 2 paths of the outline of the A. And I'm just going to paste. It'll just overwrite that. So there we go. So it's not bad. I've got 2 paths. They look like an A. They've got no fill. Remember in that previous A down here, there was actually a fill. So let's go ahead and we'll add one of those. Make sure you have your AB layer selected. Okay, let me zoom in. So you've got your AB layer selected here. Right here on the add button where you've got that little right arrow caret, click on it and we're going to add a fill. We're going to get this red by default. You can change it if you like. You can change it in a couple spots. You can change it in here in the fill 1 underneath. But if you notice up here in your toolbar, up at the very top, there's this little red swatch. You can just simply double click on it and select the new color. I'm just going to make it white. Now it looks pretty good, except there's something missing kind of in the background. If you remember in that other layer, this A outlines layer, we had this merge paths attribute that's being applied. I don't have that yet. It looks okay though. What's happening is that the fill colors are still coming through, so that's why you're seeing it display the same. But I don't have that interaction of 2 shapes overlapping and one getting knocked out. So I'm going to create that, and it's really, really easy to do. Again, with your AB layer selected, just make sure you don't have any of these other attributes selected. We're going to go to Add again. And where is it? Merge Paths, the first option in that 3rd group there. So just click on that. You'll notice what happened though is that the center actually got filled in. We haven't changed the properties for the merge path set, you can see that if I fly that open, the mode is set to add. So all it's doing is that it's filling everything. It's adding it all together. I just want to click on this little drop-down menu, and I'm going to click merge. So once I merge them, then what happens is that I get that interaction from one path to the other. Wherever there's an overlap, it knocks the shape out, and wherever there is no overlap, it shows me the fill. So my A is done. Seems overly complex, but if you were to do this again, I will guarantee you that you'll cut your time in half, because you're going to have a better understanding of what we're doing. And I don't expect you to kind of understand what we're doing right now. As soon as we do the B, then you'll fully understand what exactly is going on. Okay, I'm going to just close my A outlines layer. Just give myself some space back in my layers panel. And I'm going to make it invisible. Okay, so this is where we run into that problem of having 2 paths for our A and we need 3 for the B. Let's go ahead and we'll just start by doing the outside shape of the B, and we'll do the top counterform. I think that, you know, you can kind of assume that this might morph into a bottom counterform, and then this one would be the top one. So let's do that first, and then we'll just tackle that third path afterwards. I'm going to open up the B outlines layer, and you can see I've got 3 paths. Instead of doing them one at a time, I'm just going to click on the top path, and I'm going to shift click on the bottom one to select all 3. And all I'm doing right here is I'm making myself some keyframes that I can cut and paste so I can copy those paths. Okay, I'm just going to click on one stopwatch, and if I've got all 3 of those attributes selected, it should give me 3 keyframes, 1 for each path. So that's exactly what it's done. All right, so let's find out which one is the outline stroke. We already did this. I know it's not the top one. The top one is that top counterform. I need to not hide this layer so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to turn the visibility off on this. Make sure you don't have them all selected. There we go. So that first one is the top counterform. Second one's the bottom counterform. So I want this path right here. Okay, which is this keyframe. So I'm just going to lasso this keyframe and make a copy of it. All right. And I'm going to scroll up in my layers panel. I'm going to move my current time indicator down just a little bit. I'll move it to like frame 30, 1 second. Now think about what we're going to do here is we've got the path for the outline of the B, and we want that to be the finishing point for the outline of the A. So I know that this path 1 layer right here is my A outline. I eventually want it to turn into my B outline. So if I've got that attribute selected, path 1, and I'm on frame 30 or frame 1 second, I'm just going to hit paste, and you'll see that change to a B. Okay, now you guys don't have to do this. I'm going to hide some things to show you exactly what's happening here. Hide that. So all I'm showing you is this path 1 layer, and you can see what's happening now is that my A path is now morphing into this B path. It's doing a really shitty job of it, mind you, but we'll tackle that right now. Okay, I'm going to go to my frame 1, frame 0, and let's look really closely at this. I'm just going to zoom in. You guys don't have to do this. I just want to show you something. Can you notice this anchor point looks a little bit different from the rest of the anchor points? That's not like your point of origin. This is what this indicates is that this anchor point is like, that's your first anchor point. If you were to take your pen tool and draw this shape, this is where you started and this is where you ended. Okay, I'm going to scrub my timeline over to B, keep an eye on where that thing's going. So I get to B, and it's way the hell up here. So you can see what's happening to those anchor points is they're animating in this really weird way where it's traveling all the way from the bottom left corner of my A to the top right corner of my B. And that's not really, it's not very good. So I'm just actually going to change that. It's really easy to do. I'm going to grab my move tool. I'm on my B, right? I'm not going to bother fixing the A. I like that the original first anchor point is at the bottom left corner of the A. That's going to make it really easy for me to do this to the B, as opposed to pick somewhere in between here, right? Let's just work from the bottom left corner. I'm going to grab my move tool, or my select tool, and I'm just going to lasso that anchor point just like I would lasso any keyframe if I wanted to copy it. And I'm going to hit Control. It's just a right click, but I don't have right click, so I'm just going to hold Control and click on that anchor point to get this pop-up window. Under Mask and Shape Path, I want to change this. I want to set this as the first vertex. I don't know if you guys can read that. There, now you can read it. I'm going to set that as the first vertex, so you can see what happens now to that anchor point is it's now that filled in with the blue outline. And so if I try my animation again, that's much nicer. There's some overlap happening like right around here, which I don't really mind too much. It's okay. You have to think about at 1 second how quick that's going to be. Not a lot of people will really notice it. Okay, so let's turn on path 2. I see most people have stopped and just started watching. It's probably better. I'm going to turn on path 2. So again, this is just, here's my first keyframe. It's that A counterform shape, and it just plays all the way through. I haven't changed it yet. So I'm going to go to my B outlines, and I'm going to find out which of these paths is my top B counterform shape. And I know it's this one. Yeah, it's that one. So I'm just going to select that keyframe. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to scroll up here to my path 1. Make sure that I'm on the proper frame, because when I paste it, that's where it's going to go. So I'm going to hit paste. There we go. So now, that's actually not too bad. You can see where my vertex is. It's at the top of this A of the counterform shape. So when I scroll that over, it doesn't go too far. It's still at the top of the B counterform shape. I kind of like that, so I'm just going to leave it. And here's where the complicated part comes in. It's not overly complicated. I'm going to simplify the hell out of it. I'm just going to click on path 2. Remember, all I've been doing for these paths is duplicating them. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to hit Command D, my keyboard shortcut. So I've got this third path. Open it up so I can see what's going on here. And I'm just getting the exact same result because I just basically copied that. So what I need to do is I need that bottom counterform shape. I'm going to start from the end and work backwards. I'm going to scroll down to my B outlines, and I know that it's this path right here. So I need that keyframe to copy. So Command C. Scroll back up. Click on path 3. So I know that I'm going to paste on path 3 wherever my current time indicator is. So I'm just going to overwrite this keyframe. So there it is. There's my new keyframe. But my first one is still the same, so I'm getting this kind of weird thing happening, which isn't very good. So here's how you tackle that, or here's how I would tackle it. I'm actually going to move my current time indicator back to frame 0. And I'm going to paste another copy of that keyframe that I just created, which is that. And I'm going to use my transform tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scale this down so small that you can't even see it. But once the animation starts happening, is that it'll animate from small and kind of create its new own kind of blobby counterform and then fill in this big white space that's actually there already. So I'm going to just do Command T, get my transform, and I'm going to shrink this way down. I might even zoom in. Whoops. Shrink this way down to the point where you almost can't even see it. That's good. And I'm just going to give it a better position. I'm holding shift and just clicking my arrow keys, my nudge keys, just to nudge it over. It's the same thing in Illustrator and Photoshop. And so now what's happening is this path is morphing from this really small tiny thing that I can't even see into this bigger kind of, whoa, B. Do you guys have any questions about that? All I'm really doing is I'm creating paths with my shapes, and then I'm copying them, and then I'm pasting them on my own layer, and I'm just basically recreating everything from scratch. And the paths are just doing all the in-betweening for me. Your animation doesn't have to stop there, though. I mean, there's some easing effects. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually click and highlight all of these keyframes, and I'm going to right-click on them. So I get this window to show up. I'm going to go to keyframe assist, and I'm going to select easy ease. Okay, so you can see all my keyframes changed here. I basically just changed the graph editor really simply. If I hit space, you can see that it's kind of slow in and then slow out. Let me stop that and just kind of drag. I'm going to drag this down so that I don't have to see my whole 5-second thing every time I test it. You could even go one step further. That's not too bad. Remember, this is just the contents attribute of your AB layer. I'm just going to close some of this stuff. I've still got the transform attributes that I can still mess around with. What if I wanted to make this look a little bit more realistic, a little bit more like it's got a little bit more character to it? What if the transformation is actually kind of making it move around the screen? If I test this, you can see that this bottom part of the A is kind of crashing up into the top part of the B. Maybe you can assume that that kind of crushing motion up into the B is shifting it to the left, and it kind of bounces back. Maybe we could do something with that. I'm just going to go to frame 0, and add a keyframe for opacity. And how am I going to do this? Maybe when it first starts out, I'm going to go 4 frames. Again, this is just me messing around. You can do whatever you want to this. I'm just going to rotate, whoops, not opacity. I want to rotate it. Rotation, not opacity. So I'm going to go to frame 4, whatever. And I'm going to rotate it down, maybe 8 degrees. And then when this lower A part starts crushing up into the top B, maybe it kind of tilts it back. So maybe at that point, I turn this back. And then it bounces back to its original position. It kind of overshoots its original position a little bit farther than the initial kind of tilt, and then back to 0. Sorry, I'm just going fast because I can see that a lot of people have just started to watch. So there, maybe that's a little bit, yeah, it's not very realistic. It's all happening at the same speed. So I'm just going to jump into my graph editor here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to actually ease this. I'm going to select all these frames, and again, I'm going to do Control click or right click, keyframe assist, easy ease. Maybe that's a little bit nicer. Maybe I really just want to. Hey, did you guys notice that I did anticipation? There it is. Pretty cool, eh? I'm going to open up my graph editor, and I'm just going to make sure that I'm looking at the value graph. I'm going to click on Fit All Graphs to Window so that I can see the whole thing. I'm just going to over-exaggerate all of these curves, so I'm just going to drag this in. I'm going to drag this out, and then, sorry, just from experience, I'm just speeding up and slowing things down at certain points. Maybe that's a little bit nicer. There's a little bit more of a whip to it there. So if you guys want to recreate that or do whatever you want, and just play around with some of these settings, make it look more realistic as opposed to just like this really robotic type of thing. What? Okay, do you guys have any questions about that? That was a lot, and I know that thankfully there's a video for it. You guys can try recreate that if you want, but I urge you to try some of these things in your project if you have to. I mean, stick with your storyboard.